This is the last time I will ever let another company decide if I have a job. I was like, I'll never have a job again. Someone was like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. And I was like, what's that? I think at my peak when COVID happened, and then as that happened, that's when I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer. Cancer really helped our business. That authentic and not trying to hide it thing. I'm not the best at being authentic. There's some things I'm not sure how to communicate, whatever, but it forces you to get smarter, faster. You've got to bring your personal life into the content in some way, shape, or form. Give me something that I can be Dan the dentist is a human. I had to stop giving space to the people that wanted to ask me questions and never buy. You have to get more creative, and you have to put your energy into how do you build your future so you can do this forever.
This is Owen Hemsath, better known as Owen Video. He makes over $800,000 a year teaching top companies and business influencers how to utilize YouTube to grow their business and revenue generation. His path to being a lead expert for YouTube business professionals has been a long and windy road filled with doubt, content testing, and a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. In this episode, we dive into being fired and making yourself unemployable, what it takes to build a stellar reputation in your industry, why walking away matters, how conquering cancer helped his business thrive, and why success on YouTube looks different for everyone. This is a really emotional story, and Owen's inspiring journey really shows that you can do impossibly hard things if you put in the work and apply the same dedication and determination that you would a YouTube video. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar. As someone who's done this journey with me, next to me, near me for so long, I don't exactly know how to start this podcast besides saying, hey, what's up?
Hey, I know. It's dive right in. It's I was just thinking that. I'm like, what's up, Diz? What, but we already did that.
We've done a lot of the crazy, big, wild intros for doing live streams and podcasts and stage time together. This is literally just hey friend, let's talk about money because I know you and I both love it.
I remember the Business of Video podcast, and those were the early days, and just all the wild stuff that we used to do. And it was a fun time. It was a fun time to be. It's still a fun time to be on YouTube and to be in video, but times are always changing.
It is so different. It's so funny that you mentioned that because the first time I got to make something with you was on that video podcast. It was a very big deal for me because I lived in Korea at the time and I had to stay up really, really late to do it for the time zone difference. But also Nick Nimmin was on the podcast with you and he lives in Thailand. So he and I were like, what? Someone on our side of the world. There's been such a crazy journey. And I feel like we need to talk about all of the things that you have done and also all the things that you've left behind to get to where you are. This is one of the most impactful things about your journey that I've wanted to dive into for so long. So before we dive into the past, let's talk about the present. What do you currently do on YouTube?
I own a YouTube coaching company, and what we do is provide high-level coaching to high performance influencers, companies, brands, the business community. We don't really work with creators per se, we have a channel and we want to grow it versus we have a business and we want to grow it. And we want to have a YouTube presence on, for our business. My clients have a company. They usually have a department, a team. Typically, my clients are over 7 figures. And we have a variety of services, right? Whether it's a workshop or maybe it's coaching or maybe it's full done for you with videographers and editors and live events. That's our world. That's our business. So we spend a lot of time, not only on YouTube and behind YouTube channels, but also in video production, writing videos, writing boring videos, by the way. Sometimes these videos, they just have to be straight informative, right? And it's this is going to be for the major lead generation video or whatever. Other times we're writing skits. And so we're in Instagram, we're in Facebook, we're in the live stream space. I mean, my whole day is spent perma-logged into various different YouTube channels and looking at stats and results and thumbnails and CTRs and all that kind of stuff.
What I think I love about who you serve now is that it's who I service in a different way, which is there are people that have a business and YouTube and content creation supports their business versus being the product that they're selling. That's the main like thing that they're trying to sell and the way that creators are. I don't get to talk to a lot of people that like have that approach. So this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like we have a real unique perspective in the business. Like there's a couple guys that do what we do, but a lot of my clients come from the other guys, people that you and I both know and love and have nothing but respect for. Sean Cannell's an incredibly good friend. And so is Scott Simpson, if I can mention a couple names, two guys that I hold in the highest esteem. And I get people that come from their programs because they'll say, like, I'm looking for a more business approach. I'm looking for more of that. Like, I'm trying to grow the company, revenue, sales. We do that through video, like I've been creating video. I mean, I am a creator. I have multiple channels that we've started and abandoned. I've never made a bad channel. Like my channels, they grow. And then I have to like make a decision if I'm going to keep doing this or not. We started a marriage coaching channel. My wife and I did it and we blew up. We did incredibly well. And it's like, do we want to keep doing this? And I was like, no. So we took our thumbnails down to kind of like slow down the channel. We don't want to like disappoint anybody because we were getting all sorts of emails and like, oh, you guys got to make more videos. And like, do you guys have a coaching program? And it's like, I don't think we want to do this. I started an Amazon Alexa channel that, again, it did extremely well. And it's like, I think Alexa kind of sucks now. We did a TikTok skits channel. And that was my favorite thing to do. 250,000 subscribers in a year, millions and millions and millions of views. All of my kids have 1 million views on their own distinct video. And it was like, that was our goal. It was like, okay, James was the first to get to 1 million views. He's got actually over 10 million on his skits. And the thing about James, my oldest boy, is that he writes the punchlines a lot of the time. He improvs and adds his own thing to it. The other is like, all right, Ben, you got to get 1 million views now, and like, then we worked on a skit with Ben and so on and so forth. So, but you don't make any money on TikTok, right? Like, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, how dare you? I make $2,000 a month on TikTok. And like, that's great. That's great. That doesn't even touch what our monthly nut is. So it's like, we need to talk about big dollar amounts here. And that's why we do what we do, because creators are increasingly getting the axe. All the new updates, every update for the last 10 years has been to the negative of the creator. And then, what we get is kind of these YouTube talking points on why this is ultimately good for the platform. And I get that. But as I see creators struggling to make money, I'm glad that I'm in the space that I'm in. And two, I see the need for creators to productize even more. I just don't think that they're going to let people make the Mr. Beast kind of money anymore. I just don't see it happening. They're going to want a lot of small creators who are each making enough to take orders from YouTube and the algorithm. So creators need to be more business minded.
Yeah. Well, and you said something really important, like they're trying to make the platform better. Yeah, it's their business, trying to make their business better, trying to make more money for them. And while I will always argue that like if I have to pick a platform, I'm going to do it with YouTube because YouTube is the one that takes the best care of us. And I've got my own beefs around them, around specific different things. And it's all of these things. But let's go way back in time. So I know a lot about your past and how you got into this, which was totally on accident, which is my favorite way that everyone gets started on YouTube. So give us the brief history of Owen up to, let's say, like COVID. What were you doing with video and how were you building your business around that?
I've always been in video. I've always had a video camera in my hand since my dad came home with a video camera when I was a kid. I was kind of fired from basically every job I've ever had. But I was in sales and marketing and I was like trying to get into sales and like I was doing these big time sales. But even in those sales calls, like I was making PowerPoint videos and I would like take my camera at the time. Like there's no, unless you're a professional photographer, you didn't have a camera, right? Like there's these Kodak 1-clicks, disposable cameras. And I was using those disposable cameras. Like I was selling roofing and windows and siding, right? As like not a door-to-door salesman, but the door-to-door guy would set an appointment for me to come in and close. And so I would go in and I'd close and I'd have like a shot of me sort of photoshopped, working on a roof, you know what I mean? And it was good. I would make testimonial videos and this is the time and I'd put them into PowerPoints and whatnot. Nobody was doing this stuff, right? So I'm working at a radio station. I'm doing all this, like we would now call faceless video for some of our clients there. I was sort of adding that into their program. I decided that I would go full time on this new YouTube thing. At the time, it was 2008. It was the evolution of dance was the big sort of video at the time, but YouTube was not owned by Google at this time. And sort of the story about YouTube, what it was, is a place for cat videos. So that was kind of the story about YouTube, is YouTube's a place for cat videos. And I was like, that's perfect for me. I remember leaving the radio station, sort of like, this is the last time I will ever let another company decide if I have a job. Like I was like, I'll never have a job again. Someone was like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. And I was like, what's that? I was like, no, I just don't want to have a job anymore, you know? So I go and I start making skits, YouTube skits in my basement and showing them to people. And I like comedian by heart. And like, that's my sister's a stand-up comedian. Like comedy is how we deal with the pain of our lives. And then I realized really quickly that there would be a lot of money in doing this for other people. So instead of making a skit about dating sites, like actually calling the dating sites and saying, I'll make skits for you. I began knocking door to door on businesses, right? And saying, I'll make a video for you for 20 bucks. And that began my YouTube marketing company. Like we did 6 figures our first year and we just grew from there. And it was like video for this and video for that, sales video, YouTube videos, growing channels. And, you know, I'm becoming a speaker and I'm like a contributor on the news. And I changed my name to Owen Video and like just growing and getting big and hanging out with the biggest YouTubers. I've traveled the world and like introduced like Peter McKinnon multiple times. It's like, oh, Owen, here's meet Peter McKinnon. I'm like, yeah, we've met multiple times. Like other great big YouTubers. I work with Mr. Beast every year as the MC of Vid Summit of his conference that he owns. I remember meeting Eric before he was really Eric. And then the next year when we saw each other, he was like, bro. And I was like, bro, you know, and it was like, you've had such a big year, you know, and it was so cool. So, you know, it was during this time also that, you know, COVID, I think at my peak when COVID happened. And then as that happened, that's when I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer.
I remember that. It was really interesting. Anyone that knows you knows that you are infectious with positivity and joy. It's not a hug you won't give or a person you won't smile at and the person you don't want to help. And so I know that when you had gotten your diagnosis, it was really hard for everybody in our YouTuber community. And I know that you went on an incredible journey to heal yourself. Like I know that you've conquered it and you are in remission and you've been able to care for yourself and your family from all of that. From a business perspective, I'd be very curious to know, how did your cancer journey affect your business and your finances?
I've been diagnosed with cancer twice, and both times my business grew exponentially. I don't know why, Desiree. I don't know why, but I do know this is that, first of all, I am powered and provided for by the God who saves. And so anything that I do is merely like his influence in me. I can't, you know, and I appreciate you and I understand like where my journey is and I value what I mean to people. I would be ashamed to take all the credit for that because I was a foolish young man making stupid decisions. What I did to do was live out loud and not hide it. You know, I'd come from a place of like drug and alcohol addiction and I hid that. And so I was like, you know, I'm going to go through this cancer journey. I'm going to do it out loud and publicly. And that's exactly what we did. So the first time I did cancer, I did chemotherapy and the first time they didn't tell me it was terminal, right? So I remember being in the hospital and super depressed. I mean, I won't even go into all that, but I'm super depressed. But I woke up the next day and I'm like, you know what? We're going to beat this thing. We're going to show everyone how to do it. So I did a live stream video and I'm like, we're going to do this. And you know what? My business grew. But we also got really smart, Desiree, because at that time, the first time I got cancer, I wasn't, I say widely well known, but certainly like making my place in the world. Right after I got diagnosed, Michael Stelzner invited me to be on Social Media Examiner for the first time.
What year-ish did you have your first diagnosis?
First diagnosed like 2015.
Okay.
So I'd already been a good couple of years knocking on doors and building funnels. At that time, I was still filming people physically and I was hiring team and like renting studios. Is very labor intensive and I was very proud of myself. I was very much like, hey, not everybody has done this. Like, this is pretty substantial what this kid from LA built. Then I get cancer. So I move it into a coaching program. Now I got $1,000 a month coaching program. And that was people signed up by the drove. And all of a sudden I'm like doing chemo and coaching a group of 12 people. And I'm like, I'm making $12,000 a month from the chemo bed right here. And we just kept going. It's like, what else can we do? I remember one time having to pull over. I was leaving chemo and I had to pull over and do a session at a McDonald's parking lot from the back of my SUV because I didn't make it home in time for the internet. By the way, it was a bad idea. I should have just called my group and been like, hey, I'm going to be 20 minutes late. You know what I mean? But I was like, no, I have to make it. I've moved from like going everywhere to like, I only have to be here once, twice a week. I'm going to be there. So the second time I got cancer, that's when they told me that you're a goner. And I kept it a secret for about 8-9 months until I had gotten control of it through holistic, natural, alternative therapies. Total hippie stuff, man. Like green juicing and fasting and all the hocus pocus stuff. Like works like a charm. Not only that, you find this whole community of people. It's like, yeah, I ate grass too for 3 years. And it's like, and you don't have cancer. I don't have cancer either. You know what I mean? So it's a very beatable thing, but it's tough, you know? So like, second time, I needed to get myself together. Once I turned the corner, my tumor shrunk by 35%. Intentionally, we tried something. The same attitude that I took towards YouTube, like, I'm going to double this thumbnail. How do we triple subscribers? Let's try this. Let's split test that. That same analytical, like, part of me, because I'm a creator, but I love looking at numbers. I'm like 80% creator, 20% numbers. My wife is more 80% numbers. I start now doing this with cancer treatment. Shrink my tumors 35%. I go, let's announce to the world what we've been able to do, because now I believe I'll make it 10 years. Now I need to stoke the fire again. And so that's what we did. We came out again and we were like publicly loud, and our business has grown immensely. Last year, now it's been a couple of years. Last year, we doubled in size. This year, we've already doubled again. We're just past halfway mark of the year. So cancer has really like helped our business. You know, not only that, I say that tongue in cheek. Cancer is horrible and I hope nobody ever gets it. Statistically, everybody will. So like, let's figure out how to beat it without killing ourselves in the process. But for me, that authentic and like not trying to hide it thing, like I'm not the best at being authentic. There's some things I'm not sure how to communicate, whatever, but like it forces you to get smarter, faster. And you told me earlier, it's like, oh, you've made some good decisions. It's like, could you tell me what they are? Because half the time I'm just in survival mode. But I just knew with this, it was like, we're going to show everybody what the hell we did. We're going to keep going. Like the second time, first time I got cancer, I was like, glad to make it out alive. Second time, I was like, we are in full control. Let's show everyone. And I think we're still on that trajectory. I think we're still looking at not only how can we unlock more of who we are, but how can we unlock more of our clients? These people that are doctors and lawyers and business people that have this great service for people. Like, how do we unlock that in you to make you more of who you really are? And that's, I feel like it's been this synergistic, your arch enemy is actually your greatest teacher. That's what cancer has been.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that you talk very openly about it, but I still appreciate the insights as well here. I think the thing that I find the most uncomfortable about the idea of the statement of like cancer helped my business, and I think a lot of people deal with this, is the idea of like, how do I profit off of vulnerability? How do I profit off of sharing the bad things in my life? And I think it's a valuable question because it all comes down to the kind of person that you are and like how you can perceive it. And there's always gonna be people out there that are like, oh, you asshole, like how dare you use cancer to make money, like you're dying, like there's all this stuff. I know for me on my side of it, well, I have not experienced cancer. I do have a husband with PTSD, and it is super maddening from our family's perspective. My husband, he served, and we were starting to have the effects of it on our life starting back in 2016. We didn't know what it was. We were figuring out. And then like when we got his diagnosis in 2020, we're like, oh, this makes so much sense. But then we were faced with all of these obstacles that were beyond our control. Like the VA was so backed up and they weren't doing anything because of COVID. And where we lived, the VA was bad. And there's also just finding help that actually can help you is really difficult. Like we probably had a dozen therapists that we had gone through before we found a system and a program that worked for him. He still is working through it since he started the program. Like he started in 2021, like we're in, almost near the end of 2024, and he's still working hard in that program. And it's hard when you see someone struggle that you love and like they're sometimes trapped in their own mind. It's hard. And so for me, I always get so icky feeling. I'm like, I want to talk about it because I want to help. I want to talk about what I have had to go through, what my husband's had to go through, what our family has had to go through on this journey that we're still actively on the road for, to help other people that have not been able to do it. I say all the time to people, I will tell anyone that listens to me, there is no help for the help when it comes to PTSD. There are tons of programs that are in place to help service members so that they are not struggling, whatever that is, and getting them to the help is often the journey. But all the people that help them, like their families, their friends, all that, there's nothing to help them in the same way that like even cancer have, like they have support groups and things like that. There's not anything like that for military families. This was really hard. So if I can help other people, I want to. But when I have tried to like connect to the story and stuff, like it becomes this like icky thing. You're like, oh, that's what you signed up for. Like you're a military spouse, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, and becomes this really negative talk. And so it feels sometimes like other people like and I don't know if it's like I have like a very female woman's mothering wife perspective where like, stop complaining about your life. So what if you have problems with your kids? What if you have problems with your husband? Like no one wants to hear about that. But it's my life. And that's a thing that I have had to go through that makes me human, has taught me my lessons and that I've had to work through in my business, because there's no way in our businesses that there isn't that there isn't even a line between business and personal. Like they exist in the same space together. And so being able to take the lessons that I've learned and apply them to my business is what's helping me be successful in my
Well,
business.
I think that's what the marketplace demands now, right? Like you're a dentist's office and you have a daughter with Down syndrome. Like, well, that's something that I would like to see as sort of the 80-20 rule, right? It's like 80% of the dentist, but then I want to see 20% of the daughter and the wife and the lifestyle. And I want that to be endearing to people, right? Because being human is our competitive advantage against the chemical smells of a McDonald's restaurant that like the corporations have all of these sort of inhuman tools at their disposal to get our business, to transfer our wealth over to them for products that ultimately harm us, when we could be doing business with local people and supporting the YouTuber. And this is kind of part of my cancer journey, is like my doctor told me I was going to die. And so after about 90 days of that, I was like, well, I'm going to find a doctor who believes in at least something else. And I went to YouTube and I went to Instagram and I found doctors and I called them because I know that they're just people like you and me.
That's exactly how I found my husband's therapist, was on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, and it's like they take your call.
They do.
And it's like, oh, I'm talking to this celebrity doctor. And it's like, I don't think that they think of themselves in that way in all cases. That's changed a little bit now. But, no, we're not foolish. You call the doctor that's floating for business. You don't call Dr. Mike. You find a guy who does a great 30-minute lunch and learn that he recorded in his office in Kentucky. And it's like, you call that guy. So
You connect with that guy. You can connect with them before you go listen to them about your problem. And that's huge.
I feel like that's a strength. It's a competitive advantage that we have to learn how to add it into the flavor of our content. I know for me, I didn't post about my cancer for 9 months and I didn't tell anybody either. Like there was no inner circle. I mean, I guess my church knew, but like that was it. And even my church, I was like brand new there. Like we had just moved from California. It was actually the move that triggered the symptoms that caused us to get the diagnosis. And so I waited until we had a formula, until we had a way, because I don't think anyone would accuse me of profiteering from my cancer. But we did tell the story because 1 in 2 men will be diagnosed in their lifetime, 1 in 3 women in America. And cancer just overtook heart disease, the number 1 killer in China. Like cancer is going to touch your life either directly or indirectly. We wanted to let people know that like, hey, we walked through that a little bit. So I do think that there is, look, the person that's like, oh, I can't believe that they talk about their cancer. Like, stop complaining about your life, Des.
Well, and it's one of those things, it's like, it's my life, my experience.
No one doing better than me is going to criticize me. They're going to lift me up, right? It's only the people that are miserable that are going to say stuff like that to you. And so it's like a certain amount of that. I get tons of crap on my posts, especially when I'm like, I didn't do chemo. That's like, oh, you're a radical anti-science. Like I get all of this crap from trolls who have no profile pictures, and it's like,
That have not beat cancer.
you've got to bring your personal life into the content in some way, shape, or form, or your bocce ball league. Right? Like, oh, and my family's off limits. I get this a lot of time from business owners. Like, no, my family's off limits. And it's like, well, great. Do you bowl? Do you play basketball? Like, give me something that I can be like, Dan the dentist is a human.
we've talked about a lot of things. And I think that my favorite part about your journey is that you have failed and left things along the way to your path to success. So let's talk about this. What have you started? What have you stopped, and why? Let's start with one just because that's where I know you from, which is you started with the Business of Video podcast. Why did you stop? Why did you leave? Why did you abandon your live streaming program? Why did you abandon your YouTube program? And then we'll ultimately then get to the big one, which is your gigantic professional pivot.
I think I've left a trail of destruction in my way. Like I look behind me and I go, man, if I had just kept it that, I would still be huge today, and I would have a whole different business. Business of Video podcast. I felt like we never should have stopped that, and I stopped because I needed a break. And I would have much rather taken a hiatus and then planned something with Nick and leaned on Nick instead of trying to impress Nick. Nick was on the rise, and I think that deep down I felt insecure, and he was blowing up. We are very good friends. Nick is one of the greatest guys I've ever had the pleasure of knowing or even working with. And it's like, what an honor it is to like be able to meet people like this in our profession. But I do think that I got in my own head, and I was like, I need my own thing. Like I could have asked for advisory or counsel from wiser people, mentors. That Daryl Eves is my mentor, and he's a big brother to me. And he's offered this open door to me that, even I struggled to walk through it at times, is like, I don't want to bug him, or, like these kinds of things. So Business of Video was like, I think it was an amazing thing that we did that people still talk about to this day. And so I'm, even if Nick couldn't have continued, I think that was like the deep thing, is like, well, Nick's getting so big, he's going to have to quit this show. This is like in my own mind, I'm thinking this. It's like, so like, I'd rather that I end it before he quits, and then I'm embarrassed and I feel ashamed and all this. I think that might have been an element to it, but I wish I would have been like, hey, Nick, what do you think about taking a hiatus and coming back even stronger together? Like, I wish I would have done that.
Not too late for what it's worth.
Right. Well, maybe, you know what I mean? And there's always opportunity. That's why I love Vid Summit, because we all get to see each other again. We get to see where the synergies are. And I love that, like, some of our friends, even though they're not in the same situation they were in, they're at different brands and different companies. Seriously, like me and my 6 closest friends kind of run corporate America. Like we kind of have a lot, we're the puppeteers, of a lot of different things, but I digress. My YouTube channel. Here's the thing. Every YouTube channel I've ever touched turned to gold. I just didn't enjoy this channel anymore, like Owen Video, the Owen Video YouTube channel. We went through some like radical growth, and then we stopped producing videos, and we stopped producing videos because we were making tons of money in our client base. And the client base, they were coming from YouTube. We still get customers from YouTube. And I make maybe 10 videos a year, like now on that channel. So I think that the big thing that I saw on YouTube, because you got to understand, like who my friend group is. Like they're all creators, my closest friend groups. I'm just now starting to make friends in more of a business community. Like I was with this group of the other day, really great group of guys. And I was like, do you know who Patrick Bet David is? They're like, no. And I'm like, how do you not know who Patrick Bet David is? And I guess that's a creator thing, but because he's a big YouTube, Instagram guy. But anyway, I saw creators getting burnt out and getting screwed by, what was it called, where all the kid vloggers got canceled?
Oh,
COPPA, right? Just destroyed all these channels. What was COPPA? That was a Disney play, and again, I can't prove it. Liar, tinfoil hat, right? It's like Disney wields their Disney's the only one allowed to make money on kids. So they make this new rule to protect the kids from your dangerous advertising. And Disney owns every company in the world. So it's like Disney's the only one that gets to make money off kids now. And I saw how hard creators were working. And it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in this place where I have to keep making videos. I wanted to be in a place where my income was spread out and residual and sort of like more predictable and whatnot. And so we did back off creation. And I miss it, but I kind of don't miss it. Like I have a cancer channel that I'm extremely passionate about, and that is on the rise. And I believe is my future. There's a big model in seeing 1 million people beat cancer. And that's one thing we're working towards. We are going to get the Owen Video channel to a silver play button. And I don't know if we're going to do that this quarter, next quarter, beginning of the quarter, but like we've already got a plan. And look, maybe I shouldn't even say it out loud. It's like, once we get there, we're going to leave it alone. I'm getting the silver play button and I'm moving on.
So fascinating. Why? Just because you prove that you did it?
Yeah. Like, look, let's finish the job we started. When I started on YouTube, there were no silver play buttons. Like we we were the first people to cross the wilderness, man. And we're out here hacking it out like Tim Schmoyer, Owen Video, Sean Cannell, Benji Travis, Matt Geelan. Like, we're hacking it out. We're getting shot in the back like MCNs. They hire us, they fire us.
You've been through it all for sure.
I did work with a channel creator. This is why we don't work with creators. Did work for a channel, got him to 1 million views, got him out of his hole, terminates us 2 weeks later. I could do this on my own. And by the way, like, he hasn't since. And it's like, you check in from time to time, we took the arrows in the back for the new creator class to come in and like have a paved pathway. YouTube's like, AdSense, creator panels, and they're, I'm gonna say it's easier. It's actually harder now. There was a time Mr. Beast did not get lucky. Mr. Beast put in the work. I think Eric had to be like, he capitalized on Mr. Beast, but was not like Mr. Beast. And then the other channels, the business channels and the sort of the more professional educational channels, like long answer short, it's an easy question, is I didn't want to do what it takes now to be on YouTube. I believe that you can have a thriving, wonderful career as a creator that has a business that generates sales from the audience you build on YouTube. And I believe that there's this great, like, 10,000 subscriber, 25,000 subscriber balance, 1,000 views per video. Like, that is not an aggressive plan. And you could be making 7 figures on that.
100%.
And that's the lifestyle we want, right? And so that's what we do. That's what we do for our clients as well.
I couldn't agree with you more. I say all the time, give me $100,000 over 100,000 subscribers any day, because 100,000 subscribers doesn't pay my bills.
They can't, right?
No.
Like, the subscribers fizzle out and they age out. And you have to keep rebuilding it. And it's like every time out, the algorithm changes, like YouTube re-signs your contract. It's like, okay, but from now on, this many subscribers is now only worth this much to you, right? Oh, and there's shorts, by the way. Having a model that generates sales, you could create whatever you want, have the lifestyle of your dreams, and not be so stressed out that you need. And look, it's not Patreon either. It's not like $4.99 you join my monthly program. I hate that stuff. I mean, it's fine if you're doing it, but like,
and I think it's about what you create, like what you're known for, like what you're good at, like where you're at. Like, there's such a big difference between entertainment creators and business creators and all the things in between. And I think the thing that's so important with what you're talking, we crawled through rocks and glass so that YouTubers today could just like walk down the path all nice and mosey. But the thing is that there's also so many paths now. There's not one way to YouTube success now. YouTube's success is not measured by play buttons anymore. YouTube success, in my opinion, is really shown by like, what does my life look like, and am I able to accomplish the goals that I want within it? I think the middle class creator is one of the most undervalued and underappreciated part of the creator economy, because there's such a great way to have success as a small creator and provide for your family and do the things that are necessary. And the thing I also love about your journey, and I think this is also so important, is that you did the work to test and you did the work to grow and fail and walk away from things to find what was best for you.
Thank you, Des. Like, like I said, some of it was survival, some of it was very calculated. And ultimately, I had to become a creator of a lifestyle. And this is where I want to see creators go. Like, I want to see you put so much energy into this video that gets 362 views, or maybe it gets 3,000 views. It's not enough, but we put so much energy into that, when I would say, like, put some energy into creating a lifestyle, right? How much do you want to live on? The day that I realized I didn't have to be Elon Musk was one of the best days of my life. The day that I realized that there was a size that my company could reasonably get to, and then we could exit, and that's okay. Or, I mean, exit's the right word, but close the doors. Now, closing the doors is foolish, but it's like, hey, once we've done this, we could go do these other things, right? And that's the lifestyle we want. I get recognized places. You guys may not believe that, I get recognized places. Now I get recognized in the places that I go, for sure. Like I'm always surprised, or I'm at a birthday party and someone's there and they're like, Owen, you're Owen Video from Vid Summit. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, oh, I'm so-and-so. I have 5 million subscribers. I've been watching you for years. It's like, I was at a birthday party in Las Vegas and that came out of nowhere and it was like phenomenal. I do get recognized places and I love it. Where was I recently? We were at a picnic, an outdoor band family togetherness sandlot type of thing, man. I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops and, the gear I would never like go to an event and, someone comes up to me like, your own video and da-da-da-da-da. And my kids got to see that, right? Now, why am I bringing that up? Because I don't want to get recognized everywhere I go. There's a certain amount of like anonymity that I enjoy. And again, I'm not trying to say that I'm a big famous guy, but like I've tasted of that. I see like the value in having some anonymity, in being the mind behind some products and some things that are automated now, right? Like YouTube is a stepping stone to the lifestyle that I want to build. And we're building a lifestyle that YouTube's a big part of that. TikTok is not a part of that right now. And I mentioned that so many people are doing TikTok. I feel like TikTok's unpredictable to me. If the administration changes, we could lose TikTok. So being a YouTuber is part of who I am for sure. But it has to fit into the puzzle I'm trying to piece together.
Yeah. Speaking of puzzles, let's talk about our pie chart, which is a different kind of puzzle. We have our income pie chart. So again, that's what we do that's so different here on the Fun YouTuber podcast is we break down all of your income streams to show that like having multiple income streams is helpful. But in your case, your biggest chunk of your pie and being up over 82% of your business is your service. So I want to talk about your service in a very specific way. So I found out that you decided to like walk away from the creator economy people and the creators and all this stuff, like from your wife, who I'm obsessed with. She's who I want to be when I grow up. But she's amazing. I could talk about her all day. But she had made this post on Facebook, and I want to say it was like 2 years ago, where she talked about how like behind the scenes, like without anybody knowing, they just poof, the hemsafs now don't service the creator economy anymore. And they pivoted away from this industry and they went very specifically to working with businesses that are in the service industry that made over, are in the 7-8 figure business. They started networking at different kinds of events. Like they were everywhere I wasn't. And I was like, what is this? Like it was crazy because it made so much sense to me. And as someone who is always like trying to figure out where I'm going and what's the path and all the stuff and like making the adjustments along the way, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I would really love to know about that very intentional decision and what you guys now do as a service.
We were going through this metamorphosis and shedding painful skin, and it was painful because I have this love for sort of the small business community where I felt like I came from, and I really am this like underdog kind of guy, right? But we had just had our heart broken so many times from the small business community, right? Like, and recognized that the service that we provided and what we were actually doing was closer to like a media production company than we were like a coach, So on the advice of those closest to us, we decided to up-level the brand. And, we went through a very intentional, transformational process because I didn't know necessarily like what I was doing wrong. I had to stop giving space to the people that wanted to, ask me questions and never buy. And I still struggle with it. There's still some friends that call me up every couple of months. I'm ready. And it's like, man, the prices have only gone up, and they never invest. They never come on board. It's like over the years, we actually given them stuff like, cause they're friends and we want to see them thrive, but it's like our client is not struggling for a sale, right? Our client is doing fine and could hire me, completely fail and still be okay in their business. We hired Owen. That didn't work. Like that's got to be the place of my client. And when I come on board, I'm not interested in arguing with the client. I'm not interested in saying like, this is how you need to run your business, right? When you work with a small business owner, they are attached to everything. And it's like, oh, and you have to make it work, but with only this much money and only this much time, and you're not allowed to say X, Y, and Z. No. When a client hires me now, and I just had this conversation, owns multiple dental buildings and whatnot, is like, we want to be a decision maker right next to you. Managing your team, because you don't know how to manage your team. If you did know how to manage your content team, we would not be on this call today. We want to talk to your videographers. We want to influence your editors. And a business owner has to be at a certain place in his mind or her mind to even allow that. In fact, we just let a client go because she was trying to control everything. We said, look, I think what you want to do is you want us to be your wrench turners. And that's not what we do. We aren't that. And so we parted ways gracefully. We even gave her a little bit of her money back, because we don't look, you misrepresented yourself on the call. You acted like a big CEO and you're not. So even people that use the term CEO, most CEOs don't call themselves CEOs. We throw this word around. I got an overseas VA. It's like, look, I'm proud of you for growing your business. But there's a mindset, there's a level, and it's like we start working at that level. We've done the best work of our lives. And so it was intentional. It was hard to do, but it was the best thing for us. It was the best thing for the clients.
I think it's so important. Like I am in the middle of this similar sort of pivot. I've been in content creation for 15 years. I got started making MySpace pages for businesses. It's been
Hallelujah.
so long.
I had a ton of MySpace
Right?
pages. I love that.
Can someone please into the universe? Can I get a social network? Just give us like a vintage feature of like the top 8, please. I just dismiss it, right? But
I had like animated GIFs under my
the music.
More about me, and it was like, these animated GIFs. That was cool.
It was so fun. So much of like how the business has changed so much over the years because like how we as consumers changed, like literally a new medium like got thrusted into the world that no one was expecting or knew about and all this kind of stuff. And it's changed so much. And now how social media exists in the world is so different than how it was 15, 10, 5, 2 years ago. And so like for me, I'm in the middle of a big rebrand with my agency because doing social media is just not a marketing strategy. And I don't feel good in it. I don't want to just do social media because it's not working. People don't have things. I don't want to take someone's money. It just doesn't feel good. And so I'm like, how can I give value, but actually really help these businesses with what they have going on, which is why like I'm completely changing what I'm doing. Really pumped about it. But you have to ebb and flow and change and evolve. And I think the thing that's so hard for creators in this space, people that are truly like, I started on YouTube and somehow I now am a business owner who has this YouTube channel. I think the biggest thing that they are limited by is they do not have room to pivot. They don't have room to change because they're dictated by an algorithm that has defined who they are and what they're about. And there's so much power that's lost in that.
Yeah, and you've got to recognize where your value is, both the creator, but even you, Des, like you're not the new kid on the block. You're not the go high level rep or the go high level gal who's going to get 12 clients on her go high level monthly service or whatever. Like you are an established known figure in the digital marketing space. And what you can whisper to me alone as a business owner is worth more than what you're charging for all this. Like, oh, we'll make you this image and we'll make you that image. Make your own damn images. I'm going to tell you what image to make.
Exactly. And what the message will be and why we're doing it and how it's going to funnel into your system.
What you need to do, client, is you need to just pour yourself a cup of tea. Enjoy the show. We're going to have a photographer here tomorrow afternoon, so look pretty. I'll set the whole thing up and you're going to enjoy this more than anything else. Let me tell you this. I was at an event. My client picks me up. He goes, "You're not staying at this hotel. Get your stuff. We're leaving." And he booked me into a nicer hotel. And he goes, "I can't believe you were staying in that hotel." And I was like, bro, I'm always just like, hey, I don't need to be here long. I'm just trying to like save money for the company. And he said, "You're not this type of guy though anymore." There's a reality. So you know what I did is we got a point system and we try to stay in nicer places, but it's a marketing expense. My point is that like, you've got to know who you're talking to, even though deep inside we're like, man, I'll give it to you for free. Like I'll do it for $97 a month. You know what I mean? It's like being able to know your value in the marketplace, even as a creator, and saying like, no way, man, there's other woodworking channels out there and you can go follow them. My program's $397 a month and you will not lose your thumbs.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's about knowing that value and being able to sell it as a service too.
Sell. Yeah. Good luck with that, creators. Look, I'm just kidding. Like, I don't want to be mean, but selling sucks. But you want to be so good that it sells itself. Like, that's what I work on. Is like somebody calls me and it's like, oh, and whatever the deal is. We've put a lot of time into growing a business. We've hired counselors. We are consultants. We hire consultants. Like, being a part of an ecosystem where you're not just taking, you're also giving. It's like, we're going to take this money, but we're going to give it to another coach to teach us some things. Like, our advisors and counselors have been extremely valuable to us.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Just to kind of skim through some of these other ones that are obviously a lot smaller. You make 0.2% of our AdSense, 0.1% from creator funds, 1% from affiliates, and 5% from membership, 5% that comes from digital products, 4% from speaking, 1% from spokesperson UGC, 3% from Amazon, and 5% from doing live events and workshops. Why it's so funny to me to look through these different income streams is because I knew you before, and these numbers have been totally different at another time, because I remember how much you would like talk about affiliate marketing and how you would lean into it, how much you did speaking and you went to stuff, how you had coaching programs and courses. So much of your pie came from, it was much more evenly spread out across the board because you were doing a lot of things. I have the question to kind of think to sum up your pie chart, which is, what are your thoughts on creators that have lots of income streams? Do you think that's the way to go, or do you think they should have one that's the main one and then maybe these other ones that sprinkle in?
Yeah, and it has to be you. It has to be your main income has to be you. Our main income is our program, which for me is, it's like maybe 40%, 30% of my time goes to that program. I have coaches now, and I have a team that, look, clients don't need me. They want to have lunch with me, and they want to Carlos and Mel kind of execute on it for them, right? And that's been wonderful. Affiliate links caused me to be known by the company that the person had found me from. So I went through this with TubeBuddy, and I love TubeBuddy and Phil and the whole team, but it's not even Phil's company anymore. They've sold it. It's a whole different company now. So people are like, Owen, the TubeBuddy guy. And it's like, okay, well, that equates for me into, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month on the good months of affiliate money. I don't want that. I want a client that's paying me $2,500 a month, and it's like Owen Video. Right? Like I did worked with BeLive for 4 years, and that was a great experience. Loved everything about BeLive and don't regret it in the slightest, but I became the BeLive guy.
I'm the StreamYard girl. I get it. I'm the StreamYard girl. I get it.
Yeah. And so, we made a decision during cancer, when like we kind of did our coming out, if you will, is like, we're not going to do any more brand deals for a year. We're not going to do any affiliates. And look, like the money we were holding on to was small compared to what we gained in the.
But you had to get to that. Like that was hard. That had to have been hard to let go of. Like so many people in this creator space, like they hold on to $5 when they could have been making 50, but they don't know that till they let go of the 5.
Yes and no. Like for me, being diagnosed with cancer, it was like, I am not going to waste, at that time, I didn't know I was going to live, right? So it's like, I am not going to waste the last 10, 15 years scrambling. I'm going to do what I came out here to do, and I'm going to build my thing. What creators need to do is realize that they're worth it. You have to get creative on what your package is. Like this whole, like, join my VIP for $4.99. Like that's just not going to work. And everyone's got a $4.99. Like you have got to do something. Well, let me take it back. That might work if you're like Matt's off-road trucking, right? Like, or Matt's off-road recovery. Like you're so big, this small fee. Like you have to fulfill something or people will cancel. So you've got to think about what it is that you do. And I would think about like productizing. Can you make something that nobody else can make? Like, oh, I'm going to make a planner. Like, really? Okay. Or merch. Nobody wants to, even Ryan Trahan's merch doesn't say Ryan Trahan on it, right? It's like, he's got cool designs and stuff that he would think you'd want to wear, right? So more like a clothing line. You have to get more creative, and you have to like put your energy into like, how do you build your future so you can do this forever? If you wake up and you're like, I have to make a video again, then you're not doing it right.
Last question. What is your next money move?
We are very excited about beatcancerwithme.com. We are creating a cancer education system and a cancer support system for cancer patients and caregivers to defeat cancer, whether or not they're doing chemo. But ultimately, our goal would be to see you healthy and thriving without pharmaceutical drugs and without, toxic medications. I hate the word medications, but we want to see people living their best lives ever after cancer. And that's something that's in development. We're not ready to talk about that yet, but we're so excited about that rollout and can't wait to show you guys.
Owen, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for coming on here. Thank you for taking us on this crazy money journey that you have been on. It is incredibly inspiring. I hope that everyone listening, you got a lot of it too. You can find everything that Owen talks about and links to everything over at our show notes, thefundedyoutuber.com. Until next week. Go make that money. Peace. The Funded YouTuber is brought to you by Gigastar, a parent company of Gigastar Market, an SEC-registered funding portal, and member of FINRA. Learn more at gigastar.io. Neither Gigastar nor its affiliated companies provide legal, regulatory, financial, or tax advice. Any opinions expressed herein are those of the authors and are the informational purposes only. The information and opinions expressed herein are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investments, objectives, financial situation, or needs of any specific investors.